Once the Mariners' opening day shortstop in 2014 and 2015, the Rays designated Brad Miller for assignment ahead of Seattle's trip to Tampa Bay. Don't expect him to return in a utility role, though. St. Petersburg, Florida. While two former Rays now on the Mariners roster returned to the less-than-popular setting that is Tropicana Field after being traded just 2 weeks ago, another former Mariner was removed from the Rays roster is now stuck in baseball limbo for the next week. Brad Miller, the Mariners' second-round draft pick in the 2011 draft and opening day shortstop in 2014 and 2015, was designated for assignment by Tampa to make room for top prospect Jake Bauers, who was called up from Class AAA Durham to be the Rays' everyday first baseman. Although he is capable of playing all four infield positions and even left field, Miller had become a defensive liability at almost all of them. His best position was first base, where he was still somewhat better than C.J. Cron in the field. But with the presence of Bauers and the other positions filled, the Rays moved on from Miller. His bat, which had yielded 30 homers in his first season with the Rays in 2016, had never been quite as productive. Injuries have also kept him off the field. This season, he's hitting .256 with a .751 on-base plus slugging percentage, 10 doubles, a triple, 5 homers and 21 RBIs in 48 games. The Rays have 7 days to trade, release or outright Miller. Despite his positional versatility and athleticism and the power potential, it's difficult to see Miller getting claimed off waivers. He would be owed what's remaining on his $4.5 million contract for the rest of the season. And that price tag might be enough to keep many suitors away. If he clears waivers, the Rays could try to outright Miller to the minor leagues. But because he has more than 3 years of MLB service time, he can refuse the outright and become a free agent. However, since he has less than 5 years of service time, the only way he'd get the rest of his $4.5 million owed would be to accept the outright assignment and report to Durham. Tampa could try to work out a small trade, though any leverage in the situation is gone. They could also simply walk away from Miller and release and allow him to become a free agent and pay what's left of his contract. Of course, there are many Mariners fans that would love to bring the affable and energetic Miller back to Seattle in a bench role. There were rumblings around baseball that the Mariners were interested in Ray acquiring Miller after his big 30-homer season in 2016 as a piece in multiple trade scenarios. But the Mariners are in a different position with their roster than a year ago. It seems more than unlikely that the Mariners would claim Miller and pick up what's left on his contract. While it isn't a ton of dollars, Seattle would be wise to rat-hole the remaining dollars left over in the payroll budget to use in trades for a starting pitcher. It's also unclear on how Miller would fit on their roster, particularly with Seattle's desire to carry 8 relievers. In that roster structure, Miller would have to replace Andrew Ramini as the utility player. And while both players can play the same positions, Ramini is significantly superior defensively at those positions, and it's not close. Miller's days as a shortstop are likely behind him, even though he's stubbornly maintained that he's still a shortstop. Most teams demand that their utility player is able to handle shortstop at an above-average level. Miller is well below average as a shortstop. Obviously Ramini isn't a huge presence on offense. He's played sparingly, appearing in 33 games, 11 starts, and is hitting .143 with .393 ops. But the Mariners have already showed they value Ramini's low-key nature, his professionalism and defensive skills more than his less-than-stellar offense. It's why they went out and acquired him in the offseason to replace Taylor Motter in that role. If the Mariners were to go to 7-man bullpen, then carrying Miller as an extra left-handed bat off the bench and a possible platoon player with Ryan Healy at first base could work. An American League scout called Miller's defense passable at best. Unlike Daniel Vogelbach, Miller's ability to play in the field and pinch run, while not exemplary, wouldn't be as limiting on the roster. Healy is the better defensive first baseman, but a platoon with two could be beneficial for both players at the plate. With the addition of Alex Colomé, it does give the Mariners a little more quality depth to go back to a 7-man bullpen desired.